Welcome everyone to Personal Branding Australian Style. This is an event that's part of National Careers Week from the 12th to the 18th of May 2025. My name's Sue Ellson. I'm an independent LinkedIn specialist and great to have you with us either live in person or online via the recording. I plan to cover some specific tips, relevant examples, and I really encourage you to pick 3 things that you can do within 3 hours from now, because training is a bit like a dream. When you wake up, you forget what you learned. So if you write some notes down while it's going through, hopefully you'll have some action points to take away and you'll get the maximum value out of this. So for those of you who don't know me, my career started 6 days after my last Year 12 exam at Westpac in Adelaide. I spent 11 years in the bank doing a lot of different roles, moved to Melbourne, got a job, found out I was pregnant, got sacked, and basically haven't had a real job since 1994. So I set up my first website, newcomersnetwork.com, in 2001, joined LinkedIn in 2003. I'm a member of Golden Key International Honour Society, which is for the top 15% of undergrads. I did my entire degree by correspondence, Bachelor of Business and Administrative Management. Joined the Melbourne Press Club in 2008, Career Development Association of Australia 2015, as well as the Australian Society of Authors, Writers Victoria and Educate Plus. And I was a member of Women Speakers. I've just finished that membership up recently. I have to update my slides. So every webinar I run, I like to invite you to follow me on social media. So if you scan that QR code, it will bring you up to the contact page of my website and you can follow me. And the reason I put all these links in here is to keep myself accountable to continually grow my social media presence. And obviously, if we're talking about personal branding, that's going to be important. I definitely like to acknowledge the traditional owners of the land where we're all based. And this is obviously not professional advice for your personal circumstances, but lots of helpful details. You've already been sent a copy of the slides and it's up to you whether you leave your video camera on. Please pop questions you've got in the chat or just unmute and yell them at me. I'm perfectly fine with interruptions. I love to know what has been most helpful to you. And if you're watching this after the event, we show you a screenshot, that could have changed. But also, my mother taught me to say thank you, particularly when it's a free event. There's about 10 hours of work to put this together. So if you'd like to buy a book, follow me on social media, endorse me for my LinkedIn skills on LinkedIn, write a recommendation, Facebook or Google review, that would be super cool. And this is the blurb that I put online about what this webinar is about. So everybody's got a resume. Most people have got a LinkedIn profile, don't think they need to do much more than that. And they don't necessarily have their own name website, but I do definitely recommend that. But here's what we're going to be talking about today. So I'm going to focus on overall an introduction to personal branding in Australia, bearing in mind I've lived in Australia my whole life and I've run monthly events for people who are new to Melbourne for nearly 20 years. So I've helped a lot of people who are coming to Australia for the first time understand the world of Australia, and it is slightly different to the rest of the world. Obviously, I'll be touching on resumes and LinkedIn, and then also your own name website and what you can do next from here. And I'm going to start off with a question to you. So what angle are you most coming from today? So if you can pop a number in the chat. Number 1, you're looking for work. Number 2, you're looking for a promotion. You can put multiple numbers as well. Number 3, you're looking for business or sales opportunities. You want to create your own personal brand. Maybe you've got a side hustle or you want to be an influencer or something like that, or something else. So we got 3 and 4. Great. Lots of 3 and 4s, 1s and 4s. 5, support clients. Fantastic. 3 and 4s, 4s, 4s. 2, personal brand to get a job. Yes, absolutely, Carolyn. That's a really great one, because let's face it, even if your best friend recommends you for a job, people are still going to Google you and check out what is available online about you. And they're probably going to check you on social media as well. And I basically assume everything I publish is public. Now, it doesn't matter what privacy settings you've got turned on. If somebody knows a friend of a friend, somebody can see behind that private social media account. So I just assume absolutely everything I type into a device or speaking to my phone is public. Increasing your current brand, that's another good one. Ones and threes. Okay, we've got a real good, looking for a relevant workshop for students at my school. Yeah, that's interesting. Well, yes, a personal brand is very relevant to the younger generation. They very much know the value of a personal brand. I mean, I remember when I was first interviewed for Newcomers Network back in 2001, a journalist contacted me and they wanted to know my story, not the story about what I was doing. And I found that really, really odd and very confronting because Adelaide is basically like a big country town, as Patrick will attest as well. But yeah, I thought, why are you interested in me? This is a story about helping newcomers. And that's when I realized I am the business and the business is me kind of thing. So sadly, we've all got to have some sort of personal brand. Now, just to make you feel a little bit more comfortable, um, in 2022, I had a piece published in the Daily Mail and it was found by a producer at Channel 9. And they ended up getting me onto Channel 9's Today Extra program 20 times. And it's about 10 hours of work each time I appear on TV because I have to go do the research and write the questions and get references and practice the script and turn up at the studio, go through hair and makeup, film the 3 minutes on air, come back, put the recording online, share it with my network, like it's 10 hours of work for each little segment on Channel 9. And sadly, no one called me and said, Sue, I saw you on Channel 9 and I want to buy 600 books. And nobody said, Sue, I saw you online and I'd like to book a professional appointment. It just didn't happen. So, a lot of PR people will suggest, I can get you on television and you'll get 100,000 views and that will lead to a huge increase in your business and it's worth $5,000 or whatever it is. And I'm here to tell you, well, I've had that and didn't lead to any business. I mean, it definitely helped remind people who I know that I do what I do. And so, the other types of leads came in. But did somebody say TV appointment? No, that connection was not made. So I think we've got to look at the very broad picture of all of this. Now, you'd think if Sue can travel into the city, overcome her nerves, go through hair and makeup, be in front of a camera, which is literally a black box in a small room with a big light over the top. So all I've got is a little voice in my ear. I don't know what's going on with the presenters. I can't see them. I don't know whether they're smiling or they've got a grim look on their face. I can't see the slides that appear on the screen. All I've got is a voice in my ear and stare at the black box. And I've got to present. And so despite being able to do that, I still, and no notes either, by the way. And despite doing that, I still felt uncomfortable about filming myself on my iPhone and putting that on the internet. And you would think that's crazy, sir. It's a lot easier just to film yourself on the phone than it is to do all that other stuff. But I had sort of a concern about it, I suppose, a fear. So I want you to know that this is all coming from a place that I've struggled with all the things you will have struggled with in this personal branding story. Now, despite all that, I have been online since 2001 and on LinkedIn since 2003, and I've published a lot of content on my website. My SueEllson.com was started in 2012, and I've published a lot of content on LinkedIn. So this guy here on the left, John Espirian in the UK, he put a call out on LinkedIn and he asked 100 people to put into their favorite generative AI tool, so whether that be ChatGPT, Microsoft Copilot, Google Gemini, Perplexity, whatever, your top 5 LinkedIn specialists. And he collated the results from 100 people and he put them all together. And John and I ended up equal 6 in the world for top LinkedIn specialist. So that's a pretty good indication that my personal brand is working for me. And I was pretty excited by that. And if you want to know how I did it, just click on that link and it tells you all the ifs, buts and maybes of the things that I did to make that happen. But I'm well aware that there are plenty of other introverts like me who don't feel comfortable just putting themselves out there. And I found this article by Kate Wright, which was only published in March, and it's called Personal Branding is All the Rage, but what if you don't want to be vulnerable? And she has some excellent tips in here. So I've let her know that I've included this in the slides, but I really love this one. Remove the followers on your social media accounts who may judge you. Isn't that incredible? What an amazing piece of advice, because my parents are still hoping I get a real job, and I haven't had a real job since 1994, but boy, would they like it if I had a regular job. And so, yeah, I publish on my Facebook page, but I don't publish on my Facebook profile because that's where my friends and family are. And I sort of think, yeah, they don't really need to know about what I'm doing professionally. If they want to follow my Facebook page, no problem, but they know they're going to get a lot of LinkedIn stuff over there. So anyway, I just want to acknowledge that this whole personal branding thing is not for all of us, but we've kind of all got to do it. So just understanding that, yeah, I understand it's difficult. Now, personal branding in Australia. Most people who live in Australia have heard of the tall poppy syndrome. So this is sort of a representation of it. So the idea being, because we've come from a convict past and most of the people are incarcerated, there was sort of the gene pool of everybody incarcerated, and you didn't want anybody to stand out against that bigger pool of people. So a lot of Australians, probably over the age of 40, grew up with this idea that you shouldn't be better than anybody else. You should just, maintain the status quo. And if you did, you'd be hearing statements like, oh, you're too big for your boots or something like that. And people would sort of not really acknowledge your achievements. Whereas in a culture like the US, oh, shout it from the rooftops. You've achieved a goal. It's much more common in that type of country and culture to talk about what you've achieved. Now, I don't have any problem with you talking about your achievements so long as you don't use extra adjectives. So if you said I did A, B, and C in the job and I was the best person the company ever had, that's the bit you don't need to include, right? You can just leave that bit out, but you can definitely talk about all the things you've achieved in that job, and it is not bragging. It is simply stating what you did. Now, obviously, we don't want you to talk about commercially sensitive information. So you can't say I increased profits by $2.2 billion. You can say by 24%, no problem, because nobody knows what the actual dollar value was. So we've got to be conscious of that. But please don't be afraid to share your achievements. Now, obviously, also, if you've come from another location, you might have been a hero in that location and you go to zero when you start in the new one. So yeah, just be aware that this can happen, and it's going to take anywhere from 3 months if you've got the good strategies to 2 years to end up in a similar role as to what you were in your previous location. And that's backed up by research. So if you have the tools, you'll get into that role much quicker. If you don't have the tools, knowledge, and networks, then it will take longer. And I believe you need to be work capable, not just job ready. So there's lots of stories out there about people who've got the formal qualifications, but they haven't had any work experience. So you want to make sure, even if you've just worked in a pizza shop in Australia, you've got local Australian experience, and that will help. And one of the things that you really need in Australia is you need to be able to speak English clearly. Now, this series of videos called The Business of English is old. I'm not denying that, but it is a fantastic reminder of all the types of situations you would end up in a work environment to help you understand some of the English that you would get there. And because I worked with a lot of people who had English as their second, third, fourth, fifth language, obviously I encouraged them to practice their English, and if they needed to, watch children's television. And I had a Russian neighbor, and he said to me, Sue, how can I tell my friends in Russia that I watch children's television? And I said, well, I don't think they're going to know you're watching children's television, but you just need to improve your English, because a lot of Australians, if we hear English that we don't quite understand, we make the automatic assumption that you're not as intelligent as we are. Now, I know that's not the case, but we're accustomed to hearing so much English that, it's a point. And Tanya's put in soap operas can be good too. Yes, and they have lots of those long stares. So there's those nice little breaks between dialogue so that you can sort of try and process what you've just heard. And local experience is highly valued. So don't be afraid to mention that little part-time job for now you've got, because that's going to be helpful as well to prove that you've got that soap opera. And Tanya's also mentioned, I watched a Russian soap opera dubbed into Chinese. Oh my goodness. Wow, that would be, you definitely couldn't lip read with that particular one. I went to a French theatre production and they had surtitles above the screen. And I'm so good at watching foreign movies that I was reading the dialogue quicker than what they were saying it. So I started laughing before they'd said the punchline. And you can imagine the filthy looks I got laughing before the words were said. So then I had to remember, wait until they've said the words before I start laughing. So that was a bit of a faux pas I made. Tony says her Chinese flatmate was addicted. Great bonding time too. Yeah, it is. It can be fun. You learn all sorts of crazy things. Now, as I said before, put your achievements down, state them clearly because they're a predictor of your future. They also, if you've written them down, they're great for those behavioural interview questions. Can you tell me about a time when you did such and such? And you've already written the achievements down, so they're in your memory recall. You do need to have a reputable digital presence so that if somebody goes looking for you and they find a blank piece of, nothing on the screen, they're going to be suspicious. So we've got to have a digital presence nowadays. And we need to be verifiable. Now, this is particularly important for AI results. If you don't have recommendations and reviews online about you, it can be hard to your identity to be, recognized. And I've written 5 books, all with an ISBN number. So if you write even a digital ebook with an ISBN number, you will then be recognized in the search engines as an author, and that gives your content a much higher ranking as well. Now, if you're still looking for jobs and you're not getting interviews, that basically means whatever you did to apply for the job is not working. So don't sort of beat yourself up. Just say, all right, I've got to change my application process. Now, if you go to the interview and you miss out, do not make any assumptions as to the reason why. They'll tell you you didn't have enough experience. Well, why did you interview me? That's just a false statement. The job went to someone internally. Well, why did you bother interviewing me? You can just come up with all sorts of crazy reasons. So just ignore it and just say next and go on to the next job application. And if you are a senior leader or in business, I would definitely recommend you have your own name website. Now, Mayor has asked, does the digital present include a Facebook and Instagram, or is LinkedIn a blog, for example, enough? Well, it depends on who you're trying to reach. I think a minimum is a LinkedIn profile. Like, that is absolutely minimum. And you can have a blog on LinkedIn through LinkedIn articles, so you don't even need to have a blog. But if you do have a blog or your own website, you then own it. And then you can publish whatever you like in whichever layout you want, which I highly recommend. And you can put the whole story online. My website is huge. I think it's got about 500 pages on it now. So it's got a lot of stuff there. Now, the next thing I'm going to talk about is resumes or CVs. And obviously in Australia, they need to be applicant tracking system friendly. So it means that when they go into some computer scanner of some sort, either via LinkedIn or via an online portal or some other lodgement process that you have for reaching somebody, the applicant tracking systems can only really see plain text. So if you've got text boxes, columns, fancy pictures, a Canva layout, all of that is hopeless for an applicant tracking system. It needs to be just plain text. So please make sure you do that. And as a result of turning up live today, I will send you a layout that is applicant tracking system friendly. It is the full version. So what I suggest you do is write a ridiculously long resume with everything you've ever done in it. And then as you apply for each job, you save it with a different file name and you take out the bits that are not relevant. But you start off with that really, really comprehensive one. Sherry's mentioned, thank you, I've written 2 poetry books with New Zealand ISBN numbers. I'll also put those into LinkedIn, absolutely, in the publications section. mostly a concert musician. Oh, how exciting that you're here and that you're on LinkedIn. That just brings joy to my heart. If only we could have more creatives on LinkedIn, I would be a happy little rabbit, because we need you. Like, otherwise, it's boring professional stuff all the time. We need that creative element in there. What do you think of AI helping you to create your resume? Yeah, well, it depends on the AI and what you're starting with and the prompt that you put in. So there was some research saying that most people, when they put a prompt into AI, only do about 7 words, but to get a reasonable response out of AI, you need about 21 words. So, yeah, I would say speak to a member of the Career Development Association of Australia first, like a human being, and get their take on it, because they're already trained in all of this and they can relate to your specific situation, and they're going to be interested in you rather than just what in probability is the most likely answer, which is what AI is. Amit's asked me to distinguish between primary and secondary keywords. So I want to be known as a LinkedIn specialist. That is my primary keyword. LinkedIn trainer, LinkedIn expert, LinkedIn, what's another word you could use? Educator, whatever. Just that LinkedIn is a primary keyword. Now, secondary keywords are anything that is also related to that. So I am an independent LinkedIn expert. So I'm not working as part of LinkedIn. I'm independent of that. I'm also a member of the Career Development Association of Australia. So you might say, well, I only want to speak to a careers person who is a member of a professional association. So that would then be part of your secondary keywords. But the reason I've put the myfuture.edu.au website here is it lists all sorts of jobs, and it lists what's involved in each job. It lists the salary ranges you can expect, so you can be ready for that question, how much do you want to be paid? And it also shows future forecasts for individual jobs as well. So you can create a free account if you use a Victorian postcode. Some other states, they might want to charge you, but if you just use a Victorian postcode, you're good to go. And yeah, there's career assessments, a whole bunch of resources there, really, really helpful. But also, I'd encourage you to mention your skills and separate them into professional, technical, and personal. And I find what a lot of people from other countries do is they list their education at the very top of their LinkedIn profile. But what most employers want is, can you do the job? So let's focus on your skills first and then put the education a bit further down. So that's just what I would recommend. And you can also include details of the industries you've worked in, whether you've had a lot of correspondence with different countries, international experience, or lived and worked there. And you can also perhaps mention interests. Now, not everybody wants to mention interests, but I think it just adds a little bit more dimension to the candidate if you've got the room to pop those in as well. Now, I also like to include a career snapshot so people can just quickly look at the month and year dates, the job titles you've been in, the employers you've worked for, and the locations. And for every piece of experience you've had, write all your achievements in past tense, all your tasks in present tense, and preferably include a little description of the organisation that you've worked for. You do not in Australia need to include your photo on your resume or CV, or your age, or your full home address, or written references. You can just say references available on request. So there are other things that are specifically Australian. But if you were a health professional and you came to me asking for resume advice, I would say, sorry, can't help, because I have no idea what a resume should look like if you're in the health industry. It's just way above and beyond me. So you would need to speak to a career development specialist who can help you with that particular industry. So that will, and let's face it, the cost is tax deductible. And not only that, if you can get a job even 1 week earlier because of that professional support, think of the wage you'll earn in that 1 week. That will easily cover the cost of that professional advice that you've received. Yes, telling us about my real jobs. Yeah, thank you, Sherry. Yes, what is a real job? Well, I reckon a real job is anything that pays you what you're worth, in a timely fashion. That's what a job is. And I believe the future of work is work, not jobs, because tech is changing so many things. that people will just want us for the bits that we can do. So that's where I think we're heading. And I wrote that in 2019 before COVID, based on all my online experience as well. Now, the power of a completed LinkedIn profile. Now, a lot of you think, oh, I've already filled in my LinkedIn profile. Well, if you came to any of my other workshops on LinkedIn profile building, you would see there is a lot to fill in. And if you look at mine, there is an awful lot of detail there as well. Jenny's saying research has shown you're 2.7 times more likely to get a job within 6 months with the help of a career professional. There you go. And not only that, you're more likely to get paid what you're worth, because a lot of people, we're all taught how to do a job. We're not taught how to get a job. That's why you get professional advice. So one of the first things I recommend you do on your LinkedIn profile is change your URL so that you appear in LinkedIn online and AI search results. So I'll just quickly show you what that looks like from your LinkedIn profile. So here I am on my LinkedIn profile, and over here in the top of the screen, you can see what my LinkedIn URL is. But if you haven't done this, it will just say first name dash last name and a whole bunch of numbers and letters. So what you want to do is go over to the right here and change your URL to just your name if that's available. If that's not available, you can pop in a dash between your first and last name and see if that's available. It's not working here at the moment. You can add in a number, you can add in your formal qualifications, another keyword, whatever. But just so long as you change it, it optimizes you in search results. And whilst you're there, make sure everything else is turned on, because sometimes LinkedIn just turns those things off. And the second most important thing on your LinkedIn profile is your headline, which is this 3.5 lines directly underneath your name. Now, if you do not have that full of your keywords, you will not get search results. So you can see here, I've had 1,194 people look at me in the last 90 days, and I've appeared in 865 search results in 7 days. And that's because my LinkedIn profile is optimized. So that's not part of this workshop, but definitely important. Not your company name. No, not your company name in there, Jean, only your personal name, because this is your personal profile. If you want a company page, you go up to the For Business menu and choose Create a Company Page. And then on the Me menu, that's where your company will be. Now, I've actually created a company page called Sue Ellson. And you might say, why did you do that, Sue? Well, because most of the work is me. So I wanted to have a logo next to myself on my LinkedIn profile. But you can see I've also got another company page called 120 Ways Publishing, because that's where my books are published through. So I've got that as a company as well, which is also on my Me menu there. You can see that there is 120 Ways Publishing. Okay, so we'll go back to the slides. The reason I'm suggesting that you fill in all the job titles, pop your keywords in there, fill in all your skills, add the skills on LinkedIn to the About section, the Experience section, Licenses and Certification section, Education section, and Project section. Because when LinkedIn first started, it was just an online resume and jobs board, but now it's your digital presence. And we want you to appear digitally competent, not just digitally literate. So if you want to check out those other webinars, you are free to do that. No login, no payment, no signing up for anything, no sales pitch in it. You just watch them and go for it. And you can see all the slides too. Now, other things you need on LinkedIn is you need to have at least 6 recommendations that you've both given and received, because then people can do their checking you out any time of the day. And you try and get 20 or more endorsements for your main skills, and make sure your photo is fabulous, because believe it or not, 65% of the view time on LinkedIn is spent looking at your photo. So don't have one of those terribly serious passport photos, which a lot of my newcomers used to put on their LinkedIn profile. That may be appropriate in another country. It is not appropriate in Australia. You need to be smiling with your teeth showing and not worrying about your wrinkles or your crooked nose or whatever it is. Make sure you're just conveying your energy and enthusiasm. So when you smile, what will happen is you'll get creases at your eye line. And that's good. Even if you were 15 and you smiled, you would still get creases at that eye line. But that shows. And if you take your photo indoors, you can be excited and your pupils will dilate. If you take it outdoors in the bright sun, doesn't matter how excited you are, your pupils will shrink because it's bright outside. So take your photos inside. And I love this photo down here. I think it's Liz Palmer, and she's wearing a scarf and that frames her face. So now you're looking at her eyes, which is fantastic. This guy got guitar gigs out of this photo here. This person is very introverted, an artist who didn't want her photo on, but she found one with her hair on her face and her sunglasses on, and she felt comfortable putting that photo up. So that's fine, you know, whatever you feel comfortable with. But don't you love this photo of John? He's recently turned 80, but his energy and enthusiasm really comes across in that picture there. So on LinkedIn, if you are really keen to get a job and you are not working right now, the reality is that the algorithm prefers it if you have a current job right now. So if you don't have a job now, what you can do, or even a part-time casual job, you can put in sort of a fictitious job, for want of a better word, called career research. And I've just done a sort of an outline of one here for a senior project manager in construction, popped in a few keywords there, and I've chosen the company name as various, but don't select it from the drop-down box. And then I've in the description box, so if somebody looks at my LinkedIn profile, they'll see I'm looking for work, right? I'm looking for these jobs in these industries, and here's all the things I'm doing whilst I'm looking for the jobs. I'm not just lying on the beach, you know, crossing my fingers, hoping that somebody will miraculously contact me and give me a job. I'm actually out there actively looking for work. So when the algorithm goes looking for somebody with your skills, you can appear in search results. And then when a human looks at your LinkedIn profile, they know that you're really genuine about the job search. So that's another option for you. Now, the next thing I want to talk about is your own name website, putting in a career break. LinkedIn, sorry, I'll just stop for that question there. Thank you for that. LinkedIn has an option to put in a career break, but it only lists one thing that you're doing. And I don't like that. I mean, who on a career break does only one thing? We're all doing lots of things in life. So this is why I prefer to summarize it in a different way. So one of my clients was recovering from cancer, had actually been healed from cancer. And I asked them, what did you learn from that process? And then we put that as well as all the other things they were doing for the duration of their treatment for cancer. And it was technically a career break, but we summarized it in a much more comprehensive way. So they learned how to cook with raw foods, they studied languages, they did some travel, they did a whole bunch of things. We didn't mention the cancer piece at all, but we didn't then end up with a gap on their LinkedIn profile when people make the assumption you were sick, in jail, on drugs, you know, in court, some other terrible thing. So I definitely prefer you to sort of cover those gaps with a little bit of a story about what's going on. What type of projects go in that section? Would university assignments count? The projects can be anything you like, Carolyn. Yes, you could definitely include university assignments. You could include sort of personal development stuff, volunteer projects, maybe writing a book was a project. I mean, whatever. The more sections that are filled in, the more likely you are to appear in LinkedIn search results and of course Google results because it's a database. The more boxes filled in, the better. Now, if you Google me without being signed into LinkedIn, this is what comes up. This is my own name website, and these are the most popular pages of my website, and my LinkedIn profile comes up second, and then videos that I'm in come up over here, and then this is my author presence because I've got those ISBN books. So this is what happens in Google search results. And even though my first website, Newcomers Network, went online in 2001, and I joined LinkedIn in 2003, I didn't create my own name website until 2012. So yes, if you haven't done it yet, no worries. At least buy your own domain name and buy domain name privacy, but do not buy sueelson.co.uk, sueelson.net, sueelson.org, sueelson. Online. You don't need any of those others. Just buy one domain name. It doesn't matter which version it is, but just buy one and domain name privacy. On that website, you can put your own story your own way. You can talk about multiple aspects of you. So my poems is a huge feature. My domestic violence poem has had over 10,000 views. It has been put in a Dublin City University PhD paper. It has inspired posts on social media by survivor services. I was contacted by a person in the US who wants to put it in an anthology of poems from survivors that they also want to put to government officials and try and get some change around the whole issue. So, amazing things have happened as a result of publishing my poems and my content online. One of my poems has been converted to music. Another one was put in an arts project, all sorts of stuff. And this is all because I've been able to publish my content on my own website. Now, I publish anything I want there, but if the content has been put on someone else's website, they then own that content. So even if I wrote it and it was in a newspaper and they published it, it belongs to the newspaper. It doesn't belong to me. So I can only link to it. But let me assure you, I link to everything that I can find that I've had published because I want the robots to see Sue was published here, Sue was published there, Sue was published somewhere else. And you will notice that all of my content is friendly, professional, and solution focused. I'm sorry, folks, I'm not prepared to be controversial. I'm not prepared to bag the government or anybody else because I don't see the value in it. And I know some people, that's their brand and that's what they want to do, but that's not the brand I feel comfortable with. So if you do that, be prepared for the consequences. Have your lawyer on standby, your media advisor on standby, do all of that. But that's not for me. I'm not going into politics. I'm going into persuasion, like let's help people come up with solutions. That's what I want to do. So yeah, just think about what you're writing and because it can come back to haunt you at any old time. So I'm always respectful. Even if somebody's nasty to me, I'll write a nice comment back. Or if it's on the Daily Mail website, I ignore it completely. Like they said, I looked, was that photo pre or post lobotomy? And I think she looks like Matt Lucas. I mean, really? Why do people write this stuff? But I don't worry about it. I just stick to my knitting and make sure I'm spreading good news out there in the interwebs. If you have your own name website, Google expects you to have an about page, a contact page, and a privacy policy page. So make sure you've got at least those 3 pages on your website. And if you've got that ISBN, make sure you list all your publications as well. You can start a website without a domain name at wordpress.com. So you can call it yourname.wordpress.com. If that's not available, you can put your name and a number .wordpress.com and you can start publishing today for free and it will never be deleted. So I quite often recommend this to people who are retired and they want to share the family history and they don't want to pay for it because they know that when they die, nobody's going to pay for it. So they just publish the content at wordpress.com and then it's sort of there in perpetuity. So that's a way you can get started for free. And the good news is if you then decide to have your own name website later, you can export your content to a WordPress.org website. So as I said before, buy your domain name and domain name privacy. Don't need any extras. Publish on your website first and then share your content on social media. So what I've done here is I've done a search for me in Bing. And you might say, Sue, nobody uses Bing. Well, anybody who buys a brand new Microsoft computer will have Bing as their automatic search engine and Microsoft Edge as their internet browser. So unless they think to themselves, oh yes, I must install Google Chrome, they will be using Microsoft Edge or Microsoft Bing. So here's my results in Bing. And you can see here, it looks at my Facebook reviews. If you go down, you'll see that. And what comes up first is not my website, but this author profile on the Inside Small Business website. So it's good to know what comes up when you search for yourself in these other platforms as well. So for that reason, I do recommend you have a Google business profile. So you go to business.google.com and create one, and you go to bingplaces.com and you create a profile over there as well. And you still need to have Google reviews, Facebook reviews, and reviews on your own website. So there's people who write lovely emails to me, and I don't write back to them and say, George, can I please add your comments on my website as a review? I just go to the reviews page of my website. I've got a little plug in there, and I say, the webinar participant, I don't mention it was George, wrote blah, 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 and sign off the review. And then I respond on the sueellson.com reviews page. So then I don't have to get George's permission and wait and follow up and do all of that, but I still keep adding all those reviews. And so when I have a bad day and I get somebody saying some terrible thing, I can just go to the reviews page of my website and remember, oh yeah, there's some people who like what I do, and keep going. Because when you're working on your own and doing all this stuff, it can be easy to get sort of a little bit rattled by things that happen. Now, on your own name website, this is a screenshot from my website. You can have a blog section and you can categorize it. So I can categorize all my poems or my LinkedIn webinars or all my articles, whatever it is, I can categorize things. So then that category can appear in search results as well. Google expects only one video per page or post. So if you put 6 videos on the page thinking you're helping people because you've put 6 videos, the search engines get very confused. So don't try and put 6 videos on one page, one video, one page. And pop in a featured image. I use 1280 by 720 pixels so that it's the same as size as the YouTube thumbnail. So that's very easy. Nia's asked, do you offer a service to do a review of an individual personal brand and provide feedback? Yeah, look, 195 an hour is my rate, Australian dollars, including GST. Whatever you want, I can help. So it's whatever you're trying to focus on. You just let me know what you're trying to achieve, and then we just talk about what's going to be most helpful. So on that blog post that you write on your website, if you can make it at least 300 words, that would be good, and link to other pages of your website where there's other content related to that. And, remember that your own name website is a full summary record of everything you've done. Senior leaders are expected to have one if they want to go for those top senior roles. So if you're a senior leader who doesn't have one, you could miss out. And you can see here, this is a screenshot before you start scrolling on my website on a desktop computer. And I specifically give people only one choice. How can I help you? Book an appointment. So there's no confusion as to what somebody needs to do when they visit my website. So, you've got to make that call to action really, really clear. And hopefully people will click on at least one link so that Google says, oh, well, they didn't bounce back into search results. Because if you end up with a high bounce rate, your website's not going to perform too well for you. So don't make it too confusing at the top. Just make it really clear. This is what you can do from here. So what do I suggest that you do as a result of attending this webinar and listening in for 43 minutes so far? You need to be found for your name. So if you search for your name, you need to be found in either search engine, LinkedIn, or AI results. You need to be found for your keywords, minus LinkedIn specialist, and you need to have a very easy call to action. You need social proof with LinkedIn recommendations that you've both given and received, as well as online reviews. That is really important for AI because AI is only relying on data sets, information it's collected, and it's got to try and compile that information. So if it can't find any reviews, it's going to not go so well. You need to show up in person. And I recommend you have 3 networks, your professional network, so not just in your job, but in the industry you're in. So make sure you're a member of at least one professional association and go to their events. Your friends, your social network, friends and family, make sure you keep in touch with those people, and you can connect with them on LinkedIn as well and all your other socials. And the last one is your personal network. So maybe you love tennis and you go to the tennis club and everybody knows you as, the good player, the bad player, whatever, you go to the tennis club. So if 2 of your networks fail, your relationship ends, you're not speaking to your family, your job vanished, you can still go to the tennis club and have a good whack at the tennis ball and, still be recognized as a human being. So that's why I recommend 3 networks. You need to show up consistently online. I do recommend once a week, but if you're not up for that, Once a month is fine, but remember to engage. So liking other people's stuff and adding comments is going to give you more value than just post, post, post and ghost. That's really bad. And ideally, you should appear in resume searches, LinkedIn searches online, and AI results. That's the goal there. So, what were your 3 things you're going to do as a result of attending this webinar? Feel free to pop them in the chat and keep yourself accountable, because that's definitely an option. If you would like to know more, there's heaps of publications, presentations on my website, webinars and recording. My next webinar of a similar style is going to be on Wednesday, the 30th of July on LinkedIn for sales. So you're welcome to register for that now. I've also got some on that blog post on my website. There's some other links to information about sales too. So that's good. Oh, we've got some little comments. I'll come back and read those directly. In 1989, Woody Allen said, 80% of success is showing up. So well done to those of you who have showed up. I had nearly 200 people register for this event, and we've had, I think, 38 turn up live. So that just goes to show the numbers who turn up is very different. So don't forget, I can help you, but it will only happen if you take action. Otherwise it was just a lovely webinar to listen to, but you need to take action to get the results out of it. I definitely love comments in the chat. I'll go through those in a moment. When you leave, there will be a feedback survey. If you can fill in what you found most helpful, what you plan to do next, and what else would have been helpful, I definitely read all of those. They are anonymous, so don't worry if you want to say something, not so nice. I'll still read it and take it on board. And you can write reviews by scanning one of those codes. So let's have a look at the messages. We've got lots of thank you notes. Thank you for such a helpful webinar. I'll listen to the recording. Robin's going to update LinkedIn. Well done. Philip says thank you. Nia, check your LinkedIn keywords, get more reviews ongoing for business here. Don't get all your reviews in May 2025. That all looks sus, Plan to do them over the next 6 months. And don't forget to ask for them. A lot of people don't give them, not because they don't want to give you one, but because you didn't ask. So if you do ask for recommendations on LinkedIn, you can provide a little description. Can you please talk about my A, B, and C skills so they know what to talk about when they write that recommendation? Optimize your LinkedIn profile. I've been meaning to do it for years. Good on you, Lucy. It's never too late. Maybe you just weren't ready, a bit like me and doing those videos on social media. Lormona, clean up, update LinkedIn, sign up for more of Sue's content. Oh, nice. And follow up on 1 and 2. Thank you. Lormona, that's cute. Change website to personal name and do another website and add price policy. Okay, I don't want you to change your website to a personal name. Like LinkedIn doesn't want Google doesn't want duplicate content. So in theory, leave your business website there. On your business website, make sure you have a page with your name in the URL. So it might say business.com/about/Sue-Ellson. I've got a specific page on the website called Sue Ellson because that will appear in search results too. And then I have another website called SueEllson.com. So don't kill off your darling because that would have got its own ranking and you don't want to kill off any old websites. But add a pricing policy. Yeah, some people agree, some people don't agree. I just like to be upfront because what it means is people can check out the price and if they think it's worth it, they go ahead. And if they don't, they go somewhere else. No worries. But at least they know what to expect. And I like to do it by the hour because people can cut out at any time. So it keeps me honest and them honest. Whereas if you sign up for some 10-week program and you hate it after 2 weeks, you've spent an awful lot of money and that makes me anxious because I'm a good budgeter. So I don't offer packages. But, if you want a package, I can definitely, once you've done more than 10 hours of work with me, I do drop the rate though. That is something that I do. Robin, update LinkedIn, update socials, get domain name organized well on. And don't forget, Robin, domain name privacy. It's only about $10 a year, but it's definitely worth paying for because it reduces the amount of spam you get. Vicky's going to update her URL with name rather than numbers. All the ticks are on and work on the headliner statement. Yeah, Vicky, that formula is label, so independent LinkedIn specialist, keywords, and then a little emoji at the end. Only put the emoji at the end because the database doesn't recognize emojis. It only recognizes text. So there's no value in putting blue arrows or something or another in the headline. It looks nice, but it doesn't help you appear in search results. So only put the emoji at the end. Tanya's going to update their website, change the call to action, and add a privacy policy. And a paid consultation call is an easy first port of call. Excellent. Also, Calendly has those links that you can press and people can book an appointment. That can work too. Also, find in-person networks to attend. Global Mobility. Oh, I had globalmobilitynetwork.com back in the day. I was offered $5,000 for that domain name and I didn't sell it. I should have because it was never my passion to do it because I don't work in global mobility, but because I'm a good networker, people wanted me to create the network and help them all get more work. So anyway, long story, but I eventually just threw it out. You know, sometimes you just got to give up flogging a dead horse because I just never wanted to do it. But in-person networks, when I went into real estate in 2011, I shopped all the networks in the local area and then I picked the network that I felt would give me the best opportunities. So shop around. Don't pay for a network membership until you've been at least twice, because quite often they're really nice to you the first time you go and then they ignore you the second time and you've blown your money. So go at least twice, even if there's a cost, before you sign up to a membership program. Very helpful. Ownname.com for Philip. Great. Making this fun. Oh, thanks, Sherry. Oh, that's good. I take a lot of effort, making the slides relevant to try and focus on what's going to give you the most value. So I'm not one of those people who tells you what and not how. I do the what and how, and why as well, because obviously that's important too. LinkedIn presence more often, international projects combining music, arts, and poetry. Woohoo! When I move to Melbourne next year, I imagine I'll be doing more now living in New Zealand. Yes, absolutely. Sherry, reach out. Thanks for the excellent presentation. Thank you. Brilliant as always. Thank you, Philip. Update LinkedIn, especially with cleaning keywords, amend CV, explore online website. Cool. Purchase your own domain name. By the way, I purchased my domain name through Crazy Domains because it's pretty cheap. And if you buy it for sort of like 5 years, it's much cheaper than if you buy it for just 2 years and then renew. And then I purchased my website hosting here in Australia through a different company called ddns.com.au. Now, I put them in 2 separate locations because if the hosting goes crap, I can change my domain name servers to point to another hosting company. Whereas if it's all in the one business, and DDNS will try and get you to bring it across, so you don't need to. Just leave your domain name in one spot and your website hosting in another spot. It's really important because I'm an ex-banker. It's all about managing risk and I want to be able to change my mind at any time. So that gives me the ability to do that. Delightful session again. Thank you, Soma. Already improved my LinkedIn profile and the inputs from the previous and takeaways from this one. Good. Have to run, Leah. Thank you. Thank you, Lucy. Updating LinkedIn, socials. Have to go. Take care. Great presentation. Got to go to a client. Well done. Good news. When will this be available as a recording? I will be taking the recording, putting it on YouTube this afternoon. So it'll be there. youtube.com/@Sue Ellson, one word. You'll find it. Love Calendly, use it daily. Good on you, Tanya. Yeah, if you pay the premium, they can even pay for their appointment before it starts. How cool is that? So yeah, I haven't got the paid version, but yeah, that's pretty cool. Thank you, Sue. Very helpful, updated, and what is the best way to get your book, and is it updated for the LinkedIn format? Okay. Well, my book is available online. If you're nice to me and you connect with me on LinkedIn and you say the webinar, I'll happily send you a digital copy. And if you want to give me $9.95, I can organise that too, because it is a step-by-step process. Now, obviously, when I published it in January 2023, I was literally updating it before it went to the printers. So it was absolutely accurate in January 2023, but some of the links have changed. So, but the book will still work. You can still follow the process. So you might not be able to click on the link or the link might redirect, but the process is exactly the same as what I recommend then. It was also a finalist in the Australian Career Book Award. And if you want to go back to my first LinkedIn book, 120 Ways to Achieve Your Purpose with LinkedIn, again, very strategic book, you can go to researchgate.net and look up Sue Ellson, and you can download it for free without creating an account. So you can do that as well. Good information about domains, great session, great speaker, and enthusiastic. Yes, I am, Vicky, very enthusiastic. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to turn off the slides. So if you don't want to be on the recording, please turn off your camera. And then we'll just open it up. If anybody wants to unmute, raise their hand, ask a question live, feel free to do so. And then I'll turn it off after the first few, and if anybody wants to ask anything anonymously. So anybody wants to ask a question or make a comment publicly now, feel free to go. Tell me about something else you're doing. Happy to share that as well. Any comments? Elizabeth.
Hey, Sue, thank you. Enjoyed that again. I've been to another one of yours. Thank you so much. Just a quick question, please. Before you mentioned publish on your website first and then share on social media. But, social media often will make just like a photo, or I haven't done any videos yet, but, and just some comment to try and do it weekly. Does that mean you need to have a blog on your website so that you're doing that?
Yeah, and this is what I do. And my daughter has recently started a business, and I've told her she's got to post weekly. And of course, the only thing she likes is spreadsheets and cats. And of course, social media is not one of those, So we've had to do it, be creative about this process. So let's go to my blog, and I'll give you an example. Okay. So I did a little video on taking a micro retirement recently, right? So this is a little article. Well, it's not a little, it's actually quite comprehensive, but I've optimized the name Micro Retirement or a Career Break as the title of the blog. And that's my featured image. And you can see all the categories it's in. I write by Sue Ellson, and it links to my Sue Ellson About page on my website. So the robots know I'm the author. And there's my blurb, and there's the little video, one video per page. And then I've gone into a bit more detail. And these are other things I've written. So these are interlinks or external links to other stuff I've done. Then I've put some dot points. I've got headings. Then I've got another heading and more dot points and general career tips, more links, additional information, other recommendations, and of course a call to action. Why don't you consider purchasing my LinkedIn course? Now, what I've done at the bottom is I've linked to where else I've published it. So if we click on here, LinkedIn profile, this will take you to the post that I put on LinkedIn about this. So when the robots come in and look at it, they can say, well, this piece of content also ended up on the high domain authority website LinkedIn, so it's going to give it more ranking. So here's the post, micro retirement. But when I published it on LinkedIn, I uploaded the video direct, so people didn't have to click on a link to watch the video. And if you can do the post on social without a link, the social media will love you because they don't want you taking people off the platform. So, but I did because the article's got a lot of information in it. So I want the user experience is my primary goal, and get it going viral is not as primary for me. So does that make sense? And to get the link for each item, it will either be copy link to post, or, visit it and copy the link from up there, or it will be on the timestamp. So if we were doing this on Facebook, and we look at my post over here, this was the webinar I put up. I click on the timestamp, and there's the link up there at the top. And then I link back to that from the blog. Does that make sense?
Perfect. Thank you.
Yeah. Now, do you want to see what my daughter did with her business, the cats and the spreadsheets? So we use the spreadsheets to use AI to come up with some scripts. So she's got the scripts that she can copy paste into her social media posts. And so every time she does a blog, so we went to Canva and we created a layout. So here's her favorite one with George the cat in the box. And because what she offers is you call her up and say, I want 100 hats, you know, with my logo on it or something like that, you know, and she sources it for you and makes sure you get it, and you just pay the normal retail price. So there's her featured image, and here's her post. So there's the featured image, and by Carmen Vitnall, there's the blurb she put on social, and there's her links to where she shared it online. So yeah, she's not too happy about doing this. She didn't want to have to do that as well because it's more time. But we've got to teach the robots where we are online, because if we don't teach the robots, we are just not going to be found. Yeah. Another question. Often people have a background on their LinkedIn page. What is the best way to do that? Okay, yep, you can definitely do that. It's 1584 by 396 pixels. So
Done speaking.
say again. It's just this, you click that pen here and then you edit the cover image and you just upload your image, and that's your background banner image. Yeah. Any other public questions? No? All right. Well, we'll stop the recording there. Thank you to those people listening to the recording. Great to have you with us, and I look forward to seeing you online.